Welcome to the commentary booth where we watch and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play-by-play commentator Jamie Apps, and each week I'm joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm joined by an aircon estimator who lists their favourite movie as A Nightmare on Elm Street, and this is an old one, isn't it?
It is, because that has not been my job title for like 6 months, but good on ya.
I'm an idiot.
Yes, you are. I mean, no, you're not.
Where the heck is your most recent goddamn...
Hi, I'm Corrina. I'm an impact fee technician for the county of Volusia in Florida. How can I help you today?
Is it this one?
I don't know.
There it is.
Oh, is it? Is that it? You got it figured out now?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's an impact fee technician who lists her favourite movie as A Nightmare on Elm Street and favourite TV show as Golden Girls. Welcome to the show, Corrina Mabey.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going? Good to know. I've been forgotten about. It's only been like a couple weeks.
I went back to the wrong thing because all my notes are on Jackson's list. So I just I'll open Corina's for the intro and then just nope.
Yeah, I mean, I would have taken credit for being Jackson for a hot minute.
Fair.
He's got a cooler life than I do.
He's got a chaotic life.
I mean, there's that too, but...
Yeah, so this week we're diving into the latest Guy Ritchie film, Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, which is set to arrive on Prime Video in Australia on this coming Friday, June 16th. The movie is set during the war in Afghanistan and follows a local interpreter working with the US military whilst risking his own life to carry an injured sergeant across miles of gruelling terrain. I believe you're not like the hugest war film fan, so what did you think of Guy Ritchie's The Covenant?
It was a really good movie. Yeah, you're right. I'm not a big war movie person. I think the last war film I watched was Saving Private Ryan, so I'm gonna age myself right there.
Oh my god, that's so long ago.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute, or like a decade or more. But yeah, no, this was it was really good. It was a gripping kind of story. I had no idea what the hell it was about. You literally just messaged me and was like, "Hey, I need you to watch this," and I go, "Not a problem. Mission accepted." So yeah, it was really good. Guy Ritchie is a very interesting director for me. So I either love him or I hate him. But yeah, this was really good. Just to see like, I guess what all the hype is about when it comes to movies like this. And this was a good one.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one. You mentioned it, yeah. Guy Ritchie being an interesting director. Honestly, this didn't feel like a Guy Ritchie movie.
No, it really didn't, because his movies are usually like very like, I don't really know the correct term for it or whatever, but his camera shots are very back and forth, like wacha wacha, and then like very fast paced. This was more of a slower pace to get to that moment, I guess.
Yeah, this was definitely more leaning towards your typical drama action movie, not like your fast paced, really stylized Guy Ritchie movie with like the action sort of being in tune with some sort of modern music or like pop music elements. It was very much, I'm just going to tell a straight solid war film story that has a couple of moments of like epic action, but nothing like The Gentleman where there's action happening but it's like in time with music and it's like really
this
stylish.
Was very like serious. It was more of a serious movie, I guess, for him than what I'm used to seeing. You know, a very drama oriented movie, whereas, you know, most of his other ones have some comedic relief in it or have like a really hip soundtrack to go with it. This was very like, nope, we're gonna be very to the point, very on character with the subject matter.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice. Like, it's not what I was expecting going into it. I was expecting a flashy Guy Ritchie-esque war pick, but I got pretty generic standard war pick, which that's not to say it was bad though. Like, I really still enjoyed the movie, and it was, I imagine, a pretty interesting and exciting process for him to do, to like sort of strip everything back and just give a raw drama movie.
Yeah, I feel like he also had to get into the kind of mindset, like, you know, what it was actually like being in that kind of scenario and that kind of setting. Um, you know, it didn't feel rushed, and it felt like he did his research on, you know, the encounters that you would have had during that kind of situation. So, yeah, I really much appreciated his take on this, and the fact that it's a more, you know, it's a different path than what he usually takes with his films.
And I think another big point that we have to point out that is this is not a true story, but it definitely weaves in a lot of elements rooted in the actual events from the Afghanistan war. So it's a story built on the collection of experiences from like hundreds of different interpreters and soldiers during the war. So like the whole like idea of local Afghanis working with the US military, that was very common, and they all did face like a lot of scrutiny from the Taliban and stuff like that for basically being quote unquote traitors. Mm. And yeah, I did like I mentioned, it was a very restrained story. Like I said, there are some outrageous moments of like crazy action, but this very easily could have become like a comical portrayal of like war and US heroism, like we're the winners and we do everything perfectly, whereas it doesn't really do that. It kind of it puts a spotlight on his interpreters as well.
Yeah, it was a very gritty film. Like, you know, in comparison to some of the other stuff that he's done, but it was a very, very in your face kind of movie. Like, it's a heavy kind of movie, I think, more than anything. It's a very heavy film.
Hmm. And I think that is helped by the acting from Jake Gyllenhaal playing Master Sergeant John Kinley, and then Dar Salim as Ahmed the interpreter. I thought both of them were fantastic.
100%. They were amazing. I don't I don't really know how the seasons go when it comes to awards and shit like this, but this should be nominated for something, if not multiple things, between the cinematography and the acting alone. All of it was amazing. But yeah, they did a great job of just really pairing together very well, but also, you know, obviously not going over the top on anything, but it was just, it was a very well acted role, and they were both really hard roles to act out too, because for half the movie, Jake Gyllenhaal is like fucking like incoherent.
Pretty much unconscious.
Yeah, he's just like, what the fuck's happening? I'm really out of it. I'm in pain. I'm high. Like, oh shit.
Yeah, watching this, it made me sort of think like, is Jake Gyllenhaal like one of the most underrated actors that's like currently out there working? Like,
He's so
I don't
diverse.
think he's won
It's
many
ridiculous.
awards.
I don't think so either. I don't think he's been nominated for a whole lot, but he's such a diverse dude. Like, I don't know why he doesn't get more like leading casted roles.
Like every time I see him in a movie, I'm like, yeah, that was fantastic. Why does he? I, like, I'm just gonna look at his Wikipedia and we'll see if he's been like nominated for anything or won anything, because I don't think he's won any like major acting awards.
I don't think so, and it's really weird for me, like, because I was a big Donnie Darko fan, and that's like his shining moment for me. And so to watch him like evolve from that kind of a character into like this very serious, like military person, it was just an interesting like change up for him.
Okay, so he's won a couple. His most acclaimed films, according to Rotten Tomatoes, are October Sky, Donnie Darko, Lovely and Amazing, Brokeback Mountain, Zodiac, Source Code, End of Watch, Nightcrawler, and Stronger.
I feel like Brokeback Mountain was probably like one of those ones that he probably got nominated for.
Yep.
'Cause
He's
that
been nominated
was a
for
big
an
movie.
Academy Award, 2 Golden Globes, 3 BAFTAs, and 3 SAG awards, but don't know if he won any. Okay, so he won the Austin Film Critics Association Award in 2014 for Best Actor in Nightcrawler. Won a BAFTA for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Brokeback Mountain. Dubai International Film Festival Best Actor for Nightcrawler. Yeah, he's won like a lot of random small awards, but no like
Major.
the BAFTA is like the biggest one he won.
That's crazy. He's such a, like I said, he's a really diverse character, and like he can get into any mindset. Because we watched that like one weird movie we found on Netflix where it was like completely artsy, like a kind of artsy fartsy movie, and we both were just like, huh? It was like a while ago.
I'm trying to think what that was. Let's go back.
I don't even remember what it was called, but it was like a really, yeah, it was like a really artsy fartsy kind of film, and like trippy as crap, and we both just kind of scratched our heads at it, and I thought it was going to be fantastic, and it was just weird.
Velvet Buzzsaw.
That's what it was. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that was such a strange movie, and again, he was just so good in it. But
yeah,
no one's talking about Jake Gyllenhaal like they probably should be at this point, because he's just really good.
Yeah, like I feel like he should, like he does a lot more than Leonardo DiCaprio in terms of like body of work.
Mm-hmm.
But he definitely doesn't get the same sort of hype and recognition of like when Leo finally won his Academy Award. Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, it's about time." Like, I feel like you could say that about Jake Gyllenhaal as well. Like, if he won an award, I'd be like, "Yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah, I think he's not as like in the limelight. I feel like Hollywood doesn't have like their scope on him all the time. I feel like he's a very private person, so maybe that's why like he just flies under the radar like really really quietly, but puts out like banger movies.
Yeah, I feel like he puts out a lot of like solid movies like this one and Nightcrawler and things like that, but it's never like the movie that gets that crazy epic like this is the summer movie that everyone needs to see.
Yeah, and I feel like even with this one, like as much as I enjoyed this movie, and I don't like military films, I don't feel like it's going to be one of those movies that like everybody's talking about. I feel like it's going to be one of those silent kind of lower award films that people are going to slowly start to realize is out and eventually check out.
Yeah, well, now that it's hitting Amazon here in Australia, I think a lot more people will have that opportunity to check this one out, and I honestly really hope they do, because this is definitely worth the couple of hours investment.
Yeah, I watched it this morning. I didn't even realize that it was a 2.5 hour movie or something.
Yeah, it's quite long.
Too. Yeah, but I watched it this morning and I didn't realize it was as long as it was. But it was a very well-paced movie. There wasn't like any really slow portions of it either. It had a really good pace with it.
Yeah, even those moments after the sort of the ambush and Jake's character kind of gets taken out for a good portion of the film. Even in those moments, there are still like sections where the tension is ramped up like to the max level where you're like, uh-oh, they're about to get caught.
Absolutely. And it's like there's moments that really like kept me like entertained and really like stuck with the film, because I went into it with zero expectations. So I was like, all right, well, I'm probably going to maybe try and not fall asleep watching this, but I didn't have that problem actually, because it just kept me going and in for the whole time.
And like with the way that the story is broken up into those sections, where we have the opening section where we're kind of introduced to Jake and Ahmed together. It mainly focuses on Jake's character, so we kind of get to know him a bit. And then the crazy ambush happens and he kind of gets sidelined. And then we spend a good portion with Ahmed, so we get to know him quite well. And then the third act, they kind of come back together and you get to see them as a unit and like see the brotherhood that had developed between them.
Yeah, it was a really strong bond, even though, like you said, through most of the movie, they weren't actually like talking together. They weren't working necessarily together, but they were utilizing each other's strengths through the film.
And What did you think of the combat sequences? I thought they were pretty intense and very visceral. Like
Oh
some
my
of those
god.
stabbings and things. Like, oh god.
There was some intense things that just really were crazy to watch. I mean, I know people are always just, oh yeah, Call of Duty is like, the super, like the best thing to like get real life kind of like footage from or whatever. This really captured it though, I feel like the sequences were just so spot on to what I imagine what it's like over there, because you could feel it like when bombs were going off and, they're shooting missiles and shit like that. Like you can almost feel it, like holy shit, like that's intense. It's just insane.
Even the part where Ahmed and Jake's character are trying to escape from, I think it's during the opening part when the mine, they get ambushed at the mines and they're trying to like sneak away through the bush and scrub section, and like they spot the Taliban soldiers up on the ridge. I was like, this is terrifying.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane. And even like the interrogations and stuff like that were happening with like the Taliban. Even like initially in the beginning when they ended up, finding out about the ambushes and stuff like that, before they went into the mines with that one guy that they had on their team who ended up being a traitor.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very intense like moment of just, I know you're fucking lying, and like I'm not afraid to fucking shoot your brains out. But it was just a lot. Like I said, this movie is a very heavy movie for me. So yeah, it was. Oof.
And I think that moment you're talking about too, where they discover that there's a traitor within their ranks, I think that's the turning point where the relationship between Ahmed and Jake's character like switches. They go from like, we're just co-workers to now like, I have full faith in everything you're telling me.
Yeah, like they literally, he realizes that he might have not trusted him 100%, but now he knows that he has his back like all the way, because he didn't have to do it. He could have easily just let them walk into that and just been like, oh yeah, fuck you, bye. But yeah.
Then we get the Ahmed dragging John back towards the base over the course of multiple days. I was like, that again shows his like commitment to the cause and commitment to the Jake Gyllenhaal character. Like,
Yeah, like
he could have quite easily
like
just been
journey.
like,
Yeah, bye. No,
this
he
is
sat there
this is
and
way
made
too
it
much
out
work.
of like, he made the fucking thing out of like sticks and rocks and fucking, whatever.
Yeah,
This is a
bit of
clothing item.
fabric,
Yeah.
and then just like
Fabric and shit.
drags him for days. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, like holy shit! Like you didn't have to do that. You could have just left him for dead and said bye. But it's just, it was a very incredible kind of like bond that you realize that he had with him, I guess. And it was really weird too, because they weren't together for that long. They didn't know each other's history, but he just took it upon himself to be like, all right, well, I need to get him back, like somehow.
And like, I understand that. Yeah, he wants to do everything in his power to like show his commitment and like kind of guarantee getting that green card and visa, but then the government just screwed him, which I thought was totally ridiculous. And I believe is that something that happened quite regularly with these interpreters. They were told, yeah, we're going to pay you, and then at the end of your sort of deployment, you'll get a green card for you and your family, and you can get out of this goddamn place. But no, just got screwed, and I don't understand why the US government would have not got him out of there immediately when they got John out.
Yeah, that really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But I mean, who knows? The government does some wonky shit. So, I mean,
Especially because like, with the Afghan war, I'm pretty sure whenever like soldiers got injured, they weren't flown directly from Afghanistan back to the US. Like, I'm fairly certain they went via the German base.
Yeah, I would think that they wouldn't necessarily take them that long of a route for fear of like any additional like injuries or like prolonged like internal bleeding and shit.
Yeah, so
It would make more sense to just keep them either there locally or put them closer.
Yeah, so I don't understand why they wouldn't have just, because obviously Ahmed brought him all the way back to the base. why not just take Ahmed to the German base and put his family, like, give them residence in that German base until all of their paperwork and everything is processed. Don't leave them in Afghanistan and be like, we'll come back for you, and then just like, 6 months later, they still haven't processed the paperwork. Like, oh well.
And can we just talk about that whole like moment where my heart literally dropped because I thought they had been had by that group that he found in like the random desert with his truck, where he traded them his truck for the wheelbarrow thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, this isn't gonna go good. Nope. I literally was just, yep, he's dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some very tension fueled, like, we're busted moments in this, which I think keeps you hooked in on the movie too, because it's never just like, okay, we're just going through the motions. It's like, it's like constant points of stressing the viewer out as well as like the characters in the movie.
Yeah, because you never know, like, who's a friend and who's a foe, or, you know, whose family's being held hostage by the Taliban, so you don't know what's gonna fucking happen.
Even the moment where Ahmed's driving the ute with John in the back covered up by, like, tarps with Taliban soldiers sitting on the edges. I was like, Jesus. Oh, God. John, don't make any noises or movements.
I was like, Jesus Christ, like, literally, bro, this is the worst scenario ever.
Yep.
It was gut-wrenching.
And then, yeah, we get the third act where John is back in the US. He's sort of recovered, and he finds out that Ahmed has been left behind, and totally justified determination to get back there and help him. And what a portrayal of, like, PTSD as well.
It was insane. Like, the flashbacks that he kept having and stuff like that were just massively bonkers. Like, the treatment, too. Like, you wouldn't have thought that, like, if he had called all those fucking agencies and said who the fuck he was, like, someone would have been like, oh, we should probably, I don't know, move this up a little bit.
Yeah, we should probably listen to this guy.
Better. Yeah, instead of, like, calling for however many fucking days it was, 10, 15, 20 days, whatever, and just being on hold for 4 or 5 hours, like, screaming at people. I'm just like, you've been through so much shit, and the guy that helped you has been through even more shit now. Like, what the fuck? Yeah,
and the guy that helped you is, like, in horrible danger at the moment, like, hiding out from town to town, hoping not to get found out, and like with his family and, like, young child.
Mm-hmm. It was just absolutely bonkers.
And the flashbacks, I loved some of those because they were terrifying in some of them. Like, some of them were those crazy moments where we had the tension and, like, oh, they're about to get caught moments. But then there were others that were just, like, seemingly insignificant, and you're like, okay, yeah, I guess this is what PTSD is. Like, you have those flashbacks and you never know which one is going to be the crazy triggering one.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I really am curious as to, like, how Guy Ritchie obtained so much information and so much stuff, like, material to work with and to really get into the heads of people, because it seemed what I would presume would be an accurate depiction of having PTSD flashbacks. So it would be really interesting to kind of see, you know, who he talked to or how long he researched it for.
And even Jake, I wonder if, like, they both, like, went to, like, a veterans group or something and just, like, spoke to a bunch of soldiers and got their memories and their thoughts and experiences on how they're dealing with life post deployment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was very intense, some of those moments, and so I think that Jake did a really good job of portraying someone that has PTSD and, like, the reactions that you expect someone to have to certain things, probably, you know, messed up sleep patterns and, you know, the toll it takes on your body physically and mentally.
I did look up some facts on it. The budget was $55 million for this movie, which is pretty sort of standard. But it had a limited cinematic release in the US and only earned $17.5 million. So it's considered a absolute flop, which I do not understand. Probably because it didn't like get a ton of marketing.
I was
Like
gonna
this,
say I didn't hear anything about this movie until it randomly popped up, and you were just like, "Oh yeah, you can watch it if you want."
yeah,
It's like,
and
sure.
it also released alongside some horribly stiff competition.
I was gonna say if this came out anytime within like the past like 3 weeks, it got fucked.
Well, it came out the exact same day as Evil Dead Rise,
Oh, yep, fucked. Sorry.
and Super Mario Brothers was still going incredibly strong at that point as well. So yeah, it was just a bad time.
This is also one of those movies that's like a niche audience. I think not everyone is going to want to go see it, and some people won't be able to go see it. I personally don't think that certain military members will probably be able to watch it for certain sequences. So it's not going to be hard to market. It's just going to be hard to find a lot of people to watch it in the cinemas. So I can understand it streaming where people will be like, oh yeah, it looks good from the trailer. Let's check it on. But I can understand it's theatrical thing.
Yeah, like if you served in Afghanistan and had a bad experience, probably avoid this movie. And yeah, I think now that it's hitting Amazon, I think this is where this movie is going to find its actual audience, and a lot more people will be like, "Oh yeah, I can chuck it on." Like, if I don't enjoy the first like half an hour, I can turn it off. It's not like I've paid crazy amount of money to go to the cinema and watch a movie.
Right.
In terms of rating for this one, what would you give Guy Ritchie's The Covenant?
It's a fantastic movie. It's like whatever. What's your highest thing? Because this is might be like the highest one for me so far. Okay, so yeah, it's a 5 for me actually. Especially going into it not liking these kind of films, it made me really really like them and gave me hope to maybe start watching other ones that you've suggested to me.
Shooter's
so yeah,
another very good one.
What one is it?
Shooter.
I don't know what that is either. I've got a lot of catching up to do.
I think it's a Mark Wahlberg one, actually.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I know that everybody kept telling me, like, for the longest time to watch The Hurt Locker, and it's something I've never seen. And
that's another Jake Gyllenhaal epic, great movie.
Is he in that? Oh, I thought that was Jeremy Renner. Or are they both in it?
No, I'm pretty sure The Hurt Locker is Jake. Oh, no, it is Jeremy Renner.
Oh, which one I win. What?
Jake Gyllenhaal in.
Wasn't he in Black Hawk Down? I did see Black Hawk Down. I'll put myself in that category, but it was just as bad.
He's in. Maybe it was Stronger. Jarhead is the one I'm thinking of. That's another fantastic Jake Gyllenhaal war movie.
Yeah. So there's like, I have a lot of lists to catch up with, but this movie literally opened my eyes to things that I might actually like that I just never thought I would like, because it just didn't strike me as something that was an interesting kind of subject matter. But you never know, I might give some other stuff a try now. So I really enjoyed it. It was super good.
Yeah, I think the ones that focus on like the individuals rather than the like overarching military encounter and the battles, I think they're
like
the
Pearl
ones.
Harbor versus this kind of a film.
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor was just like generically about that.
Yeah, the ones that focus on the individuals, I think, are a little bit more like more suited for people that are like invested for the story, not so much I just want to watch like I'm a war buff. For me, I gave this one 4 out of 5. I thought it was fantastic, but like I said, it's definitely not going to be for everyone. And I think if you're a Guy Ritchie fan, you might be a bit put off by this one. Like,
yeah, because it's
not a Guy Ritchie movie.
It's a Guy Ritchie film. Yeah, don't watch this and expect to see a Guy Ritchie movie. It's definitely a way different approach to things. But I'm glad that he branched out and did something different. You know, it shows that he is also becoming a more, fluid kind of director, I guess.
Which, like, it's not a Guy Ritchie movie, which makes it weird that they put in the title Guy Ritchie's The Covenant.
Ritchie's Covenant, yeah.
Like, I assume they only did that to try and bump up the hype level for it, but then all that's going to do is get Guy Ritchie fans to come and check it out and then be like, this isn't a Guy Ritchie movie. This is just a movie that he directed. Like, it doesn't feel like his vision at all. So, yeah, another sort of knock on this one to drag it down from a 5 for me. So, yeah, that's Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. You can check that out on Amazon Prime this Friday, June 16th. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow Corrina on Instagram at Miss Corrina Renee, and you can follow me on social media at JamieUps Media and at Pario Magazine. The Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of JamieUps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/JamieUps Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.